We're in. We're in, and we're coming in hot today.
We're live, yeah.
We're coming
We're
in
live from
hot.
Wales.
We're
No, we're not
like
live from Wales. We're live from Wales and Portugal.
live from Wales and Portugal,
Yeah.
and James has got the sun. I've got the sun actually today. It is, mate. It's quite nice out here. Actually, last week has been pretty decent.
I
Looking
think
out
you've
there
actually
now.
got better weather than me right now. I'm looking out and it's raining. So
Is it
yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
really? Oh,
Yeah, it's
right.
raining right now. Yeah.
Is it hot out there though?
It's yeah, it's warm. It's like I think it's been at about 17 degrees, 18 degrees. So it's quite no, it's quite nice.
Right, right. Ah, fair enough. But
Mm.
yeah, well, we're coming in hot today because we're talking about a topic that I it quite annoys me, to be honest.
Right.
And so yeah, we're bringing the heat, and this topic is, am I right in saying supplements and slash the rise of peptides?
Yeah, I
Is
guess
that
so.
is that kind of the sort of angle you want to come in on this? Is that
I
kind
don't know,
of
you say
fair?
what's your idea on it? What's your
So look, what I think is right. You've got a situation today where the rise of science is brilliant, right? You look at kind of what people are able to do today, you know. And obviously, with that has come this surge in things like Manjaro. I think there's a new one as well that has just come out. I've heard of. I don't know the name of it though.
yeah, there are quite a few.
But yeah, there's a new one that has just come out and it's like really expensive apparently. I think right now, and
Mm.
I don't know if there's fear in saying I could be wrong on this. I think peptides are potentially the new supplements, where it's obviously still a supplement, right? But it's the new angle that coaches can kind of sell
Mm.
to people and make a problem that doesn't exist
Yeah.
so that they can sell them a solution.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Think that's fair in saying that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So where do we start with this one then, mate? Should we start with our perspective? Because look, I am not by any means to start with like an expert in maybe kind of like the biochemistry of peptides and how they work, right? And
Yeah.
but I've been hearing things online such as, take this to get shredded, take that to, lose however many pounds. And it's like, well, shouldn't people just exhaust the option first of getting in a calorie deficit and getting some good nutrition coaching first,
Mm.
before we start jumping on the bandwagon with paying hundreds of pounds to get this peptide, which quite frankly isn't gonna be a long-term solution. And nobody's talking about the fact that people that are really pushing and promoting this are also lining their back pockets too, because they get a cut, obviously, of the sale. And well, I mean, that's been going on forever, in the fitness industry at large, right? So yeah, what's your perspective on it anyway? Because I think I've just blown the doors wide open there, haven't I?
Well, you have, yeah. I mean, you have. You could probably end the podcast there, but no. I think, like as you said, you have to start with. There's no point jumping ahead. If you've got, be it a fat loss goal, like you just mentioned there, you've got to start with the fundamental factors, like the principles that we know work. So sustaining an energy balance over a period of time in order to allow your body to drop the fat. Like there is no way around that. You physiologically have to create an energy balance. Outside of that, it's doing things to make the that whole process as easy as possible. And I think often nowadays we are things are talked about because they look like the shiny object syndrome or the shortcut. And the reality is there is no shortcut. You've still got to do the work. Um, and for many people, I think they're unnecessary and potentially a waste of money as well. I mean,
Right.
Alan Aragon talked about it. I've heard him discuss this, that he's not anti weight loss jab, and I'm not anti weight loss jab or anything
No,
like that.
I'm not either. By the way,
No
I'm
way. And
not,
I think in the right for the right person, they're life changing.
Yeah.
But you've also got to consider that we've had many people losing weight, dieting, and for years, just following sound nutrition and lifestyle changes, without the need for weight loss injections, fancy supplements, peptides, all the rest. I just think things like that are really the cherry on the icing on the cake, and they're going to have such a minor impact on your overall results. And most people should just go for the low hanging fruit, which is consuming a diet that prioritizes good health, and then from there having the flexibility to include some foods within balance that you enjoy, and then sustaining, adjusting your energy intake if you've got a fat loss goal.
Right.
Um,
Is there, can you see any, because you said they're obviously the low-hanging fruit, right? Like,
mm.
why do you think people decide to just jump on peptides, a Monjaro, and things like this first without exhausting, just hiring a coach, for instance? Like, where do you think that comes from?
I just think of it as sometimes people will see it as a shortcut, and they've also potentially not had exposure to a good coach, someone who can actually work with them and get them the result in a way that they can sustain, and that they've developed that education for life. A lot of people have had bad experiences with dieting and with coaching, and so they see this and they think, well, this is the solution, and so I can't fault someone for that. All I would fault is the people they've had bad experiences with, because there are tons of like shit coaches out there who'll just put someone on a diet plan, and then what happens is the plan ends and the person has no frigging clue how to live. So you've got to
Right,
actually help someone achieve their fat loss goal, but you've also got to coach them on nutrition, give them an education, and coach the person to live afterwards. And if you do that, they're going to be in a much better position, and they probably won't even need to then consider weight loss jabs, because if they ever get to the point again where, you know what, be it after a period of stressful months and maybe they've gained some weight and they go, oh, I need to drop some weight now, they have the education and the tools to do so.
right. So do you see a world where everybody should be, because I hear this all the time, like people saying it should be made more widely available for more people, right? Do you think that that should be the case, or do you think people should kind of exhaust those?
Again, I think someone who is in poor health, and we know that, like, being very overweight does increase risk of heart disease, cancer, many things like that. Then for someone like that, then it should be. I agree. Having that readily available is a big thing, because we want someone to improve their health, whether that is by their own means, but sometimes someone needs a helping hand. So I have,
Yeah.
nothing against that. It's just, um, yeah, it's more so people who haven't been exposed to good coaching
Mm.
and jump
Like
on it.
that's the thing for me, which I find, to be honest, quite disingenuous, is when people will push supplements, push now peptides instead of just basics.
Mm.
And I find it to be quite disingenuous because I don't think that's sustainable, and I actually don't think that it's going to do a lot of the work that needs to get done. I think that at the end of the day, it comes down to the individual's personal responsibility to actually make a change in their life.
Yeah,
Um, and I think that coaches out there that are kind of really pushing this and hammering this home over just the basics and making sure that you're promoting the thing that's actually going to make most of the difference. I find that to be quite problematic in a way because it's changing people's perception on the hierarchy of things,
Mhm.
like at the end of the day, at the base of that pyramid, you need to know what comes first, right? Especially when it comes to weight loss. And the way these drugs are pushed now as well these days are all for the wrong reasons. You look at people that are taking them just to get shredded to go on their lad's holiday, or
Mm.
go to whatever Ibiza. I personally don't think that that's a healthy outlook to use these drugs. But yeah, I mean, with peptides, do you have much experience on any of those and like how some of those might be useful for people, or is that
I
not
mean,
kind of
the
your
most
lane?
common one, the one is BPC 157, and it's been touted around for a number of years now as being like the peptide that will, give you super healing powers. I think people have said you'll heal like Wolverine or something. I tried it back 2 years ago in my hamstring after a hamstring
Mm.
injury. You just like you can take it intravenously. Sorry, you can take it orally, and if you take it orally, then that potentially can help with gut irritation, so improving your gut health. If you inject it into the site, then that can help potentially with like healing an injury. But I tried it and I got nothing from it. I spoke to other people who said, I know it works wonders. Um, you know, Again, just speaking from my own experience of trying that to heal an injury, and it did nothing for me. I don't know. I'm not clued up on the other things because, like I said, my approach is always working on the principles and developing someone's education and what they need to do to sustain a healthy and enjoyable life, not trying to layer on things on top that I think are, like I said, just the cherry on the icing on the cake.
Yeah, definitely. I couldn't agree more, mate. And that reflects in my training philosophy too.
Yeah.
Me, it's kind of like don't do what you don't need to do.
Mm.
You need to follow the basics, be consistent over time. And again, these things can be tools, but I just feel like today in society there's been a big shift in terms of people's priorities. And I think that there's a number of coaches out there that are profiting off that, and I again find that to be quite disingenuous personally,
Mm.
Anything else you want to add to that, or we kind of
No, and
good
I
on
think
that?
yeah, like you said it perfectly when you said I think they've almost turned into like the new supplements. And I remember something from Martin like years back when I was doing MNU, and I don't know that if it was I don't think it was actually his statement, but it was something he'd heard from someone, and it was when we were learning about supplements, and he said, um, outside of just the basic things like vitamin D and things to uh, supplement the diet where you're not getting enough of them. But he said, that your typical fancy supplements, he said, most supplements don't work, and if they if they most supplements don't work, but if they do work, they're likely illegal or something along the lines of that. I'm probably butchering it a little bit, and it summed it up perfectly, really. So outside of the things like getting enough vitamin D. So for most people in the UK, get a blood test, obviously, if possible. But for most people, supplementing vitamin D would be a good idea because most of us don't get enough sun exposure. Uh, Potentially fish oil if you don't consume much oily fish in the week, and then things like whey protein if you need it to boost your protein intake can be useful. Creatine is another great one for performance and for neurodegenerative benefits. Um, Outside of that, you can get into the weeds on other things like
Yeah.
beta alanine for performance and stuff. But for the most part, for health and things, they're covering your bases, and then you can look at other little things like zinc or vitamin B, potentially if you're working with a vegetarian or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. Well, I think that's probably a good place to end that actually, because it's quite a dense subject,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I do think it's very valuable, for
Mm.
people to live because it is so important to have perspective on this, and I see people that are more than happy to spend £250 a month on Manjaro, but haven't had a nutrition coach yet,
Yeah.
and I just think that's completely backwards. I really do. I have a similar perspective on it without getting too side railed, but to surgeries as well. I
Mm.
just see people that like, do you know what? for like the surgeon says, yeah, you need to do you need to get a knee replacement, and people are like, yeah, let's just do it, you know.
Yeah, that should be the last resort, shouldn't it?
Yeah, should be the last resort, you know. Like how about we just strength train? You know, I had
Mm.
plenty of experiences with clients that have come to me and said, you know, I've partially torn my uh, ACL or whatever, and they want to put me under the knife, and I'm like, for what? You
Yeah,
know, like that shouldn't be a thing. Coming back to the point of this whole topic, the same approach should be taken with these supplements or peptides, whatever you want to call them. You know,
yeah.
so yeah, I think we'll end that one there, mate. And
Mm.
anything else you want to add, or
No,
no?
no, not at all.
Okay. Well, guys, if you enjoyed that one, feel free to leave that rating and review, and we shall catch you in the next one.